Voltron Network.
What's up, guys, and welcome to the DC versus Marvel podcast, where we talk about the latest DC and Marvel movie news. My name is Uz, aka Uzi Man Diaz, and I'm representing DC Comics. And and once again, joining me is my boy Ed, aka Eddie Brock, representing the red corner of
Let's say
Marvel.
Eddie
Man.
Wilson this time because I'm wearing my Jack Daniels Deadpool shirt.
Yeah, man. So yeah, it's once again, guys, we're joining you in a weird situation where we're kind of in a time warp or whatever. The news that kind of keeps coming out there about DC and Marvel is just kind of the news that you think that you're not in the right dimension, right? Like somehow like a dimension's opened up, we've jumped through this portal. It's
mad.
like we're in some some
This whole year
weird
is
kind of
just
situation.
the whole year is just some crazy. We've slipped into like Earth 2 territory. Is there like a specific effed up DC world? Like that's just what's the one with like the evil Justice League?
Oh yeah, with yeah, with Ultraman.
Yeah,
and
that's where we're at.
Superman,
Everything's just
that's
backwards,
where we are.
upside down. Just it's a mess.
Yeah, we're basically in the world of the crime syndicate, right? So
There you go.
so pretty much.
Go.
Well, the thing is, it's so bizarre. Like basically, like you seen that photo that I put in the group, right? Of like these police in Seattle, and they've got like their black outfits.
I was supposed to post that. I forgot.
And
What is that about? They literally just taking the piss. Like they saw the show and thought, "Ooh, this will get people talking." Like, there's no way that could be an accident. No way.
They have to. I mean, out of everything, why would you suddenly go and just say, right?
Yeah, black.
Okay.
All yellow masks in the same year that show. It was this year? Was it last year? I don't know. Time means nothing anymore. When was it? It was last year.
It's this year.
It was this year. Yeah.
Yeah, it's this year. Yeah. Because like it's crazy because basically that was our most shared post on the Facebook page, man. People just took that, right, because I was just like, this is just crazy, and they're just sharing it on their own like personal pages and stuff like that. And it's just like, man, this is so absolutely freaking bizarre. But when you see like the kind of split that they have in America, you got one group of people supporting one side and one group of people supporting the other side. Do you know what I would think to myself? This might actually be something that they have purposely done, and thought, okay, let's do this because we are the police and we
have you actually explained to the people what we're talking about, like the actual what the police were doing?
Yeah, so guys, if you've seen you guys seen Watchmen, the series basically, and at the start of the series there's the thing about the Tulsa massacre that occurs, and there's police there, and they've basically got all black outfits, and they put on these kind of like yellow masks to kind of conceal their appearance and stuff like that. The Seattle PD, basically to go against the protesters, for some reason has chosen the same type of thing. So it seems to be like the people who are cycling, their kind of police who are cycling, which is like a special group or whatever. They've got all black outfits, black helmets, and the same yellow scarf like over their mouths and nose, which to me is utterly bizarre. It's kind of like, let's let's take on the mantle of Watchmen. And out of every color that you could think of, I don't know why would you choose that? Why wouldn't you have a black mask? It makes no sense to me why you'd have something that is yellow. It's just like
someone is trolling.
Somebody is trolling, right? And it will be more funny if there was actually like the people who make like the uniforms and stuff were like, yeah, let's make them wear this will be hilarious.
This will
right?
be like an Easter egg, a real life Easter egg. This will be great.
yeah proper trolling, man. But yeah, that's some crazy stuff. So much crazy stuff happening, even when we're talking about in the news. We're going to be talking about some of these topics which are just like, if I was saying to people last year that these things are rumored or these things are potentially happening, people would be like, nah, no way. If I went back 3-4 years and I said this stuff, people would be like, you're absolutely crazy.
Nah, we live in a rational world. This stuff would never happen. You're talking crazy to us. Stop it.
Exactly.
Here we are.
And if we went back to 4 years ago, if we went back to 2016 and we were saying this stuff, then they'd be like, you're just a bitter DC fan making up all of this kind of stuff. And it's like, actually, a lot of this stuff has like come out to be true, man. So before we get into that,
I'm hyped because I've been watching. For some reason, I went down like a rabbit hole where I was watching like cartoon. I think we all do it every once in a while. We go through like cartoon intros from the 80s and 90s and just relive those nostalgia memories of like Bionic 6 and Road Warriors and all those insane cartoons that we used to watch. Why were they so much better back then? Like the theme tunes were always like the power ballads. Warriors.
Yeah. Oh, Jason the Wheeled Warriors, man.
Yeah.
That is,
Ulysses.
Ulysses was amazing because they used to take like those those myths, and then turn into
this crazy cartoon, this sci-fi madness. Loved it.
Yeah, I introduced my kids like last year to Cities of Gold, man, and they were just like
Father of the year, everybody. Yeah.
They love it, man. They love like the whole cartoon, just the theme tune, everything, man. It's like
the theme tunes were always it. Like I would get so hyped whenever these cartoons would start, whether it's Saturday morning or after school time, and the themes would hit. I would just jump up in my living room, just dancing around. Tingles. Loved it.
Exactly, and it was like literally because that's the thing, because you don't get so much choice, right? So it was like it was only on at this particular time, and it was like whatever. Say like suddenly you got Silver Hawks like that. Like,
so you hated missing it. You hated tuning in and knowing that you'd missed the theme tune. Like what was the other one? I forgot what the name of it is now. But yeah, it would hurt if you missed it, and you have to negotiate sometimes with your parents because they might be watching something else like the news. Just to negotiate, please, just 20 minutes. I just want to watch my shows, please. I'll do the washing up. I'll clean up my room. Anything. Come on.
Yeah, it's weird because I've been kind of doing a similar thing, but kind of like because I've been downloading like theme tunes and stuff like that for these, because I've been going cycling. I wanted like a headphones that kind of had like a little SD card in it, so it goes back there, the SD card plugs in, so I could like listen to stuff, right? So I've just been downloading all tunes.
Why would you want that? Why can't you just have it to your phone and Bluetooth?
Because the thing is, when you're cycling, right, your phone, it keeps getting activated all the time, so it will be like it'll skip to another track, or it will do whatever.
You get a new phone or get one of those arm strap things. I think that would be easier.
That will probably be easier, but I've got to make it complicated.
I've never heard of headphones that had a USB attachment where you can stick a USB stick into it. Never heard of that.
No, an SD card.
An SD card.
Micro SD, yeah. So basically, it was just like downloading all this stuff. So I went on some random thing where I was like, man, let's get some nostalgic tunes to cycle with. So I went to the YouTube of of Knight Rider and Airwolf and stuff like that.
Dear.
If you look at the comments on so it's on the NBC official YouTube channel, right? And it says the comments on Knight Rider is basically teenagers just ripping the shit out of this. Yeah, it's basically like
it is true. Like when you really look at it, when you try and be objective and you feel like I've never seen this. Try imagine I've never seen this before. I'm watching it with fresh eyes. A TV show that's on every week about a guy with a talking car. What the hell can they do every week to make this an engaging show? And it shouldn't make sense. It shouldn't work. But at the time when we were kids, you have to remember there weren't as many channels, so you were grateful for anything. So you could just fall in love with any show. But it really shouldn't work because any villain should just go into a building and that's it. The car is out of the equation completely. But somehow they made it work all the time.
Well, that's the thing, man. It was that's what people are saying. Like they're like, oh yeah, this is like laughable, and then other people are like, yeah, this, you may laugh at this now, but back in the day, man, it was basically like there was two groups. Yeah, you were either I want a DeLorean or I want Kit, right? if it depends what kid you were, right? You were one of those two, right? And
I had a kit.
it was just
It was like a stumpy one, which like was a pullback card. It would just do little tricks and drive around. Oh, that was one of the best toys.
man.
Yeah,
It's so next level. If you think about it, like all of those kind of shows, like A-Team was a thing, same thing every single week, right? It was basically like they gone to go and help people. They're to fly there, so they're to knock out Mr. T. They're to basically sedate him or something.
Yeah.
Then they go there. They'd have a montage where they'd make some crazy
some tank thing, whatever.
Yeah, they'd defeat the guy. Then they'd have to run away
because the army came.
And
they never killed anybody. Somehow they never killed anybody, even though they had guns and machine guns and everything. But no one would ever die. We'll just kind of fly through the air, and everyone was in that tied up.
There'll be like ones where they'll be like, okay, yeah, let's go to this construction site and find this massive like pipe that is like 10 meters long and attach it to the side of this van to make a cannon, and then fire it at places, but the people would survive inside. And it would just be two jokes, man. So yeah, guys, if you ever think about unrealistic stuff, you need to go and see the 80s the 80s TV show, man, because they were kind of crazy. So without further ado, man, let's get into the news. And there's been some juicy news that has come this week, man. Let's get straight into it. Let's get straight into Ray Fisher and his comments, man.
Delicious.
Guys, if you haven't seen already, and I'm glad you haven't, because you come to us for the news. You wait for us to dissect it and stuff. Ray Fisher basically just Cyborg, in Justice League. He came out like he was actually in BVS as well, I think, right at the end. BVS, a tiny scene in there. Basically, he last week he said he basically said at Comic-Con that he really supported Joss Whedon, and he loved him as a director and stuff like that. And he put out a tweet saying that he like basically like wholeheartedly wants to retract that statement. Right, so people are like, okay, fair enough. And then this week he's kind of put out something that says, and I'm paraphrasing, that basically Joss Whedon was like super unprofessional. He was, he was basically like very like aggressive to people on set and stuff like that. The way he treated the crew and the way that he treated the actors was really bad. And he put like basically hashtag accountability over entertainment, right? So he's put that kind of out, which
is crazy, because I would never have imagined that from Joss Whedon, because he always seemed like, from the Buffy days, he always seemed to be this other person that would cultivate a crew of like a family type crew, kind of like what what's his face Jackson does with the Lord of the Rings, where everyone just seemed to feel like they were sad to leave, but turns out that was just all a facade. It was all bullshit.
Did you ever see that article that Joss Whedon's wife wrote?
Well, I heard his ex-wife said.
Yeah, his ex-wife.
That he was all abusive. He was just a horrible person.
Yeah, that basically like he had affairs with multiple people on set and all this kind of stuff.
Crazy.
And there was good-looking
guy.
I know, exactly. Well, that's the thing. It's like it's power, isn't it? It's power over whatever. But then it's there was rumors also that there was something going on between him and Scarlett Johansson and blah blah. And this is this is what I'm saying. This is why I'm saying rumors, guys. You always got to say rumors. But yeah, so this is a thing, man. It's couple of people have come and
Kevin Smith. What Kevin Smith said?
No.
Apparently, Kevin Smith said that when he was on a set of a next movie, visiting the set, the guys who were doing it was a Solo, the Star Wars story, and some of the special effects guys on that were special effects guys on Justice League, and he was saying that they were telling him that Joss Whedon would openly insult Zack Snyder. Like, they would show him what Zack Snyder done, and he would just rinse it, say this is rubbish. Not just the work, but what Zack Snyder's vision was for what the movie was going to be. And apparently, he was doing this on set. This is a man who had to leave this movie because his daughter had died, and he's just turned up and he's just crapping on the guy. Like, how much of an arsehole you have to be to do that?
the thing is, like, basically, if you're enabled by the bosses there, which is Jess Johns and John Berg, which is what Ray Fisher says there as well, that those two were the enablers of it. If your two bosses are like, look, yeah, we're bringing you in as the savior because this guy messed it up and we want you to come in and make it more lighthearted and stuff like that. This is why, right? Okay, and guys, I know DC fans, they're really kind of like, I don't know, they put me up on this kind of thing where I can't say any critique about DC, or I can't say anything positive about Marvel. But what I would say is, this is what I say, like, when people critique Feige, like I say, like, actually, in terms of Feige, right, he wasn't having it from Whedon, man. He's like, look, yeah, Whedon did well in Avengers, right, and he went and did Ultron, and then he's like, get out of it. He's like, get out, right? Yeah, he goes, I'm not having it from you, yeah. So you know what I mean? It's like, this is the kind of thing, like, you know, for the big problem with DC is that the actual DC stuff itself was and the content was never put above everything else. So when it comes to Marvel, it's like, look, yeah, the whole sphere of Marvel is the thing that is above everything else.
Character
like,
comes first. Marvel Universe comes first, not the
Yeah.
directors and
Exactly. It's like, we you know, it doesn't matter what kind of tantrums you have on set or whatever. If you're going to go and you're not going to play by the rules, then you're getting out of here, right? And that's the difference within DC. Is like, basically, they're just like, okay, well, we don't like this because it seems to be following the same tone as Man of Steel BVS, and we don't like it, so we're going to completely change it, and we're going to Avengeize it by a guy who has made Avengers, and bring him in. And that was a huge problem, man. I mean, you know, when I look at the kind of changes that he made, okay, he was given a brief to do, okay, change it to this, change it to that, right? But you know, after Justice League, when I went and saw, you know, our friend Salim, like the day after, right? And I was ripping the shit out of this film, right? I was like cussing this film so much, and he's like, yeah, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't that bad, blah blah. And I was like, look, yeah, imagine if you watched Man of Steel, then basically, me and my mate, we went and watched Man of Steel and BVS before we watched Justice League. So you watched Man of Steel.
Where we met you in the flesh.
Yeah, exactly. So we watched Man of Steel and BVS, the extended edition of both of those, extended edition Man of Steel and BVS, and then went to cinema to go and watch Justice League, right?
Separately.
The tone was so off, right, in comparison to those other films, right, that it's like I'm watching something completely different, which makes no sense in the context of the other two, right? And because it was like that, it was kind of like, you know, it's just so kind of, you know.
But that's the higher ups, though, isn't it? That's what they wanted. They got scared and they tried to course correct. And I don't really want to justify Whedon. Like, it's hard. I don't like having the crap on Whedon because I love Buffy, dude. I love Buffy. Part of my, I hate. So it hurts me to have to kind of, but all of this I can't ignore. So I have to honestly say, obviously he had an impossible job to do, a movie which is pretty much done, and then you have this tiny little window of having to reshoot and completely change it, which is impossible. It's going to fail anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the higher ups though. Like, if they just didn't get scared, or at least try and plan it out beforehand, if you knew to a degree that this was going to happen, like you saw BVS before, like the planning, that's what it all comes down to. It's just the planning and sticking to their guns. They're incapable of doing that.
Well, this is, honestly, in hindsight, you know, I've thought about this so much. Obviously, like loads of DC fans have thought about this, you know, ad nauseum pretty much. But in hindsight, I'm kind of thinking about it, and even at the time, I was kind of thinking, what was the thought process of the higher ups, right? Now, basically, okay, you've given him 3 films, right? And it's basically like, okay, even if he left it slightly open ended, it could have been like, okay, let's refilm the ending. Let's just close it, right? And then it's like, okay, you've got those 3 films. you know, they did all of this to get a 10% increase on Rotten Tomatoes. Right? They did, you know, they spent $200 million, right, to get a 10% increase. That's basically what they wanted. They were so scared of Rotten Tomatoes, they're so scared of Twitter, all this kind of stuff, that they wanted to get that higher grade, right? Because of Wonder Woman and all that kind of stuff. So they just did it just to get 10% more, and it was a waste of money. Right. But what they could have just done is just said, okay, fine, we don't like your vision, we're going to move on from this, we're going to do something else, blah blah blah. So you finish it, just finish off this, and we're not going to continue the contract on later on, or whatever, right? But the way it seems that they did it was like, okay, we're just going to try and keep going and just like basically get somebody to completely change this and then allow it to lead on to something else.
That's
right?
what's mad, because they just let him, they let Zach do his thing right up until he left. Like, it wasn't like halfway through his process they got him to change it. No, they just let him spend all his money and film everything that he could do at that point. And then it was only once he gone that they decided, oh, maybe we should just change this whole thing. Like, what would have happened if Zach never left? Would they have stuck with his version? Or would they still try to cannibalize it some other way just through editing? Like, it would have been like another third version of the film we would have gone.
Well, that's the thing. Well, they asked him to change it anyway. So he had an original vision, which was very, you know, extremely different. And then he changed it to basically to the Justice League that we're seeing, you know, that we're going to see there next year. And then obviously it got changed again to Joss Whedon style of Justice League. But it's just like the whole thought process behind it was bizarre. And it's just like you know, there's going to be loads more stuff coming out about that. I mean, you could see that there was certain things, for example, like when you had that scene where Flash is running and he doesn't know where he's going and he just appears and he basically lands on Wonder Woman. So his face is like in her chest, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And Gal Gadot refused to do that. So they got a body double to do that. Yeah. She refused to do that scene, right? So they got a body double to do that scene, right? Where he was there, right? So so basically, like you know, they that's why on the scene the face is turned the other way and like he's there. So so it's kind of like, okay, well that's like the tip of the iceberg of stuff that was probably occurring at the time. When you look at when somebody has put online, they put up the press conference for Justice League that was at Comic-Con, right? And then the press conference later on when they were doing the rounds for you know, for promotion, right? And it's a totally different vibe, man. Totally different vibe.
That's where the Sag Flex stuff came from, innit? Because you could just see that they were just dejected by a lot of this shit, man.
Yeah, and obviously he was like, you know, his you know, he just fell back into alcoholism and God knows what, man. So
maybe it wasn't being Batman, it was Josh, because he was in shape for Zach shooting, but it's when the reshoots came, that's when he decided to give up and just the Bat Boy again.
So that's it. So if we just quickly go into the rumors about Ben Affleck as well, right? Because the rumor mill has been going absolutely freaking crazy. So so we heard obviously like Michael Keaton is coming back and he's gonna be in the Flash film.
Is it confirmed? Because I was hearing that it could still fall
in talks,
through.
in talks, and then it came out. So now we're hearing rumors, right? And this is rumors, guys, and you basically get out, you know, whatever salt you got, table salt, rock salt, whatever, pour it on the table, just grab a handful of it for this, right? and basically, like, they were saying, okay, well, if we can't get him, then potentially Christian Bale's going to come back and then do this kind of stuff. And also then there was rumors about, okay, that Ben Affleck has signed some kind of contract with HBO Max to make some films there with them. And I think the reason is because he was saying last year when he made his most recent film that he wants to make a sequel to The Town. And apparently that's the thing that he's going to be doing on HBO Max. But obviously, people are saying like he's got like a multi-picture deal, and he's coming back to do DC stuff because nothing else exists apart from Marvel and DC, right?
He
So
has gotten in shape,
he
like
has gotten in shape.
being with that Cuban chick, Anna, what's her face?
So
Mwah,
this is where
is
the next rumor comes in, right? So now we've got another rumor that came out today, right? Which I saw on MovieWeb, and I'm just like, okay, now if this is true, right, then I don't know what the hell's happened to 2020, right? But basically, you're talking about Anna de Armas, who is with Ben Affleck, apparently has also signed
beautiful Anna. Let's give a full title. Stunning.
Has also signed a multi-picture deal with HBO Max, and basically there are rumors that HBO Max wants to do a Zatanna film, basically as its own kind of thing. And Ana de Armas is the one who basically has had tons and tons of fan art as Zatanna, and I think you're right, she just signed a picture deal with HBO Max, and there's rumors that they're making a Zatanna film. What's going on there, right?
This is the issue though. Wasn't the Dark Justice League, that is for HBO Max, the JJ Abrams one.
Yeah.
And I was hearing that the Zatanna one was going to be separate from that. It was actually going to be an actual movie.
Film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cinematic, so it wouldn't be connected to HBO Max.
Well, I don't know. It's just rumors.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing, man. You see, that's what I said. Just grab a massive handful of salt.
If they do that, that's convoluted as hell, because you got one Zatanna in Justice League Dark and then the next one for the movies. It's like, and they learned the lesson now. Come on, just simplify it a little bit.
Exactly. And if you're saying that HBO Max is a prestige service, then you should be having the same Zatanna in there that you're having on the big screen, and there will be no big difference with doing that, man. If they do this, actually, I'd be quite happy with that, because I've been hearing rumors for ages that they're going to do a Dr. Fate, right? And I've been against that so much, right? Even though I love Dr. Fate, love his story, all this kind of stuff. For me, if they do a Dr. Fate film, right, the initial comparison is going to be to Doctor Strange. Even though they're very different characters, it's going to be like, oh, DC's done Dr. Fate, oh, Doctor Strange's already come, they're copying it, blah blah. Don't just avoid that comparison there altogether. You can allude to him because obviously Zatanna's father becomes Dr. Fate, Zatara becomes Dr. Fate, but you don't have to basically go and make that film, man. It'd be much better to just make a Zatanna film. And obviously that is in fashion there at the moment, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm wondering about that, but that is the rumor. I'd be much more worried about the Christian Bale thing, because that, I was talking last time about the cameos and how I get worried about when there's too many cameos and it becomes a bit CW-y kind of thing. If they're like, oh yeah, we're going to have a Ben Affleck cameo as Batman and we're going to have a Christian Bale cameo, I'm just thinking, don't. You're going to make it like a silly kind of like, okay, at Flashpoint, where Flash he keeps trying to change things and keeps going back in time, and it's like, it's still not right, and then he does something else.
I guess we don't know at this point, but I was always under the assumption that it was going to be, if they couldn't get Keaton, then they will go with the other one.
Yeah.
Bell. Which doesn't really make sense, because there's a big age gap there. So you either go with the proper old Batman, or one which I guess they tried to portray as being old in Rise, but he wasn't really that old. So it changes the character quite a bit.
Well, this is the thing. Basically, like, there's been rumors, obviously, this week that what's it called? That Michael Keaton is going to have a bat suit, basically, and it's going to be similar to, like, it's going to have elements of the Kingdom Come bat suit, where Batman is, like, Bruce Wayne is super old in it, right? Which kind of makes sense, because obviously, like, he has to have, the suit has to do more and more, right? But this is the thing that I don't like about that aspect, is I'm always thinking about, okay, you've got to do something different, and you've got so much you know, you've got so many characters that you can always do something different, right? So why then you're talking about Michael Keaton being the new Tony Stark for the DC universe? That's what they're talking about, right? And he's got a suit that has much more control over stuff because of the fact that he himself is quite old. The suit has to do a lot more as the kingdom come back. Batman,
I don't want
then
him
it's kind of like
in a suit. I want Keaton in this, but I don't want to see him suit up. I want him to be at a point where he knows he isn't physically capable and he becomes down a mentor
Batman
for someone
Beyond
else.
style.
Yeah. And I was also hearing rumors of to take whatever, but they could use I was hearing that they want to use that sort of concept of the Batman Beyond, but apply it to a Batgirl. So instead of him mentoring this next Batman of the future, Batman Beyonds, they were going to have him mentor the Batgirl, Barbara Gordon. And he was going to take that role.
Interesting. That would be interesting. Because I guess, well, that's the thing. That's the way that you can introduce a whole new sphere into it. You know what I mean? I think a lot of fans and a lot of purists, they get angered when you disrespect a character, right? For example, like, you know, in the CW stuff, they always skirted around it, and it's kind of like a, you know, disrespect to the character a lot of the time. And in Gotham, it's like a really just skirting around the issue kind of. People don't like that. But when you show that, you know, you show respect to the character, however you then show it, you know, whether it's an old guy who's done all of his stuff and things like that, and is now mentoring like a Batgirl or whatever, then it really, like, a lot of fans are going to be happy with that. You know what I mean? I think they will take that on, rather than being like, well, you know what, we're just going to replace you. We're going to have no Batman, but we're going to have a Batwoman and a Batgirl team or something like that. Or, you know, it's going to be, you know, Batwoman, Batgirl, and Spoiler, for example, and Cassie Cain. That's our team that we're going to have, basically, right? Because you can imagine the internet going crazy over something like that. So, I think that could work. I think that could work really well, man.
I would like that. I think that'd be a good idea, but
let's go into some Marvel stuff, which is the what kind of Marvel stuff? Did you see that X-Men cast Zoom thing?
Yes. Not the whole thing, but I saw when Ryan turned up. That was funny. I did like that. That was pretty much it. It was like a spoof of the reunion things, and then Ryan turns up.
It wasn't like really long. It's just kind of like they're at home, because these guys, man, they basically want attention, right? So they're kind of just at home. Like, how are we going to get attention? Okay, let's have an X-Men reunion on Zoom. And then obviously, like, Ryan turned up and like trolled it and stuff like that, and it's just like, it's hilarious, man. He literally is Deadpool real life, right? He's kind of like, he's taken on that bloody character, you know what I mean, as a real life kind of thing, man. But from him, it's interesting because even though he only turned up for a very short amount of time, right, compared to the long ass interview that the next guy I'm talking about had, because Ryan has so much charisma and this guy, Anthony Mackie, has very little charisma, people are talking much more about that kind of tiny little Ryan Reynolds turn up than the thing that Anthony Mackie was saying. So Anthony Mackie said a few things. He had an interview. They're doing this thing, actors on actors, right? Where basically an actor will interview another actor on Zoom or whatever, and then they're putting it out into the internet. I don't know if it's on YouTube or what, but it's kind of been, you know, just out there in the internet kind of thing. So Anthony Mackie, he said a few things about Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is like, it's going to be like a 6-hour Marvel movie, basically. So he's talking about that level of production, in that, which to me is interesting, man. I mean, because I don't know, like, part of the thing, like, you know, when you're seeing a movie, is the reaction of the crowd, right? And it's the reaction of, you know, me as a DC fan, when I went to go see Captain America Civil War, right? And I knew Spider-Man was going to be in it. You know from the trailer, Spider-Man is in it, right? But you're sitting there and Spidey turns up and the crowd just like go, yeah, and you just can't help but get caught up in that thing, right? are you going to lose a lot of that by having a produced 6-hour produced Marvel movie on a Disney Plus series?
Yeah, but I presume he says that out of more just the form of storytelling, not so much like the audience reaction. I guess he just feels like it's one singular narrative. It's not going to be little adventures separate every episode, which is good. That was kind of like what they did with The Mandalorian, which I didn't like, because it was too much just adventure of the week. With this, a single narrative that they're just continuing just in one go, which just chopped up into 6 episodes, which it's worked to me. I'm presuming that's more what he meant by 6-hour movie.
Well, yeah, and he's talking about the production level as well. Like the production level is similar to that of a movie kind of thing. He's also talking about he's criticizing the diversity in Marvel movies, saying that, on screen and off screen, more kind of off screen in terms of the crew, like basically saying like about the producers and directors and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm in two minds about that, because to me, it's like, okay, if you're directing a Marvel movie, you're a ghost director for Feige kind of anyway. So
true, but then we've seen with the Russos, even though you are that, you do kind of get your creativity out there, and it propels you for what you do after. So your career is stronger, because given that the movies were received afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. But this is the thing, like, for me, the stuff that where they were kind of said, okay, use your own creativity, but we're going to keep you on a leash kind of thing. So, Winter Soldier, Infinity War, for me, those were kind of like their superior ones. And when it's like, okay, we're just going to let you do whatever because you've done so much for Marvel, when it comes to Endgame, for me, is not as good as those two other films, man.
How dare you? Endgame was great, but I was necessarily talking about as well, like the movies they're doing after their period in Marvel, because it helps them. They get more of a choice, more freedom, more budget. So
how bad must those guys, those guys who did I was going to say Dungeons and Dragons.
Game of Thrones.
What was it? Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones. Right. So those guys, man, they basically threw in the towel of the last season of Game of Thrones, because they're like, sod it, man. We're going to go.
Yeah, they screwed themselves. They screwed us. Those of us who were Game of Thrones fans, by not caring enough about that last season to actually put some effort into it, into the narrative, to tie it up in a satisfying manner. And then they screwed themselves because they ended up getting them kicked off of Star Wars afterwards. So they got nothing, really. Good.
And now they're just like, I mean, who's going to employ those guys doing anything?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Oh, mate, it's just absolutely crazy. So, yeah, it's. Do you reckon that? I mean, looking at the films, I can't see there's an issue with diversity on it. I mean, do you reckon there's an issue with diversity?
As far as characters are concerned, they're kind of just limited by what they have in the Marvel, in the characters. Their characters are what they are, unless you decide to really completely change a character completely, where you run the risk of alienating your fans by doing that. As far as behind the scenes, though, I don't know what the situation is, like whether there are people, crew members or producers who are of various ethnicities who want the opportunity but aren't given that, or whether there just aren't that much diversity in that industry at all. Like I don't, I'm not in Hollywood, so I can't answer that. So I guess if the opportunity's there, people are going to rise up. Maybe he's in a position now he can start producing movies, so he can help address that and direct stuff. So I guess that's what you're going to have to do, really. If you're in a position to take that step, then do it.
Do you get many? I'm just thinking, like, do you get many actors who go into that next? So you get, like, if you're a footballer, the next step is like, okay, after you're retired, let's go and become a become a manager or whatever. But kind of like with acting, I mean, there's the odd people, I guess. I don't know. I can't even think of anybody off the top of my head who basically just went. I guess somebody. Clint Eastwood probably rings.
Eastwood. There are a lot doing directing. Like even Olivia Wilde directed a movie. It was actually pretty good last year. Yeah, but as far as production, not as many. Not so much. But Brad Pitt does quite a bit. So they're out there. Well, I guess because it's something you're not aware of because you don't really see the producers unless you're actually paying attention to the names that pop up at the beginning. So I don't really know.
Yeah, but you know, it is what it is. If you want to, I think it is a boys' club, that place, man, because you know, so many people want to get into that.
You're gonna get your friends in it, people you know. If you're gonna bring people in, you get people you hang out with and go dinner with. You don't necessarily go out of your way to get people you don't know.
Yeah,
boys'
exactly.
Club. It's like politics, same thing.
Politics,
it's all their buddies are hiring their buddies to fill in all the different positions.
Yeah, exactly, which is what we were talking about before, guys, before we even started this. So another thing which is kind of like a boys club is the Batman film, because, and this is like, people have said this anyway, Matt Reeves is like, yeah, I want my buddy, you know, Arpat, who I know really well, to do this thing. I know what's his name, God, name escapes me now. The guy who's does all the Hobbit and all that kind of stuff. I can't remember what his name is now. But all the motion capture stuff. He British actor. They're like, yeah, let's have him. Colin Farrell's a mate of Matt Reeves, so he's like, yep, let's have that guy.
Thankfully, Matt Reeves has talented friends. At least that's something. Like, it could be a lot worse. It could be a lot worse.
That is true, man. So
it could be like Kevin Smith hiring his friends, and they aren't really, most of them are good actors.
Oh, God.
I'm going to say it. I love Kevin Smith, the man. He's a great talker, great storyteller, but his movies are terrible now.
Yeah, his recent movies are awful, man. Like, really bad. Really, really bad, man. So Peter Skarsgård, who is one of the guys who is who's on the Batman project, he was talking about his character. So he's like, yeah, I'm playing a mystery character. I can't tell you who this character is, but this character, he's saying, is always at 11, basically, right? He's never less than 11, right? So he's like, pretty much, you have some characters there who they're calm some of the time there, and then when they actually do their action, they dial it up. Other people, like the Joker's kind of maniacal, but he's always at like a 7, and then he goes maniacal up to 10.
I'm trying to picture the Skarsgård. Is this the Skarsgård from 4, or is this the one from True Blood?
This is the guy who played who was in Green Lantern. You know Green Lantern, and he basically plays the bad guy in it, and he calls Parallax, and he gets a massive head.
Oh, that dude.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You know who he's playing?
Yeah, so that's the thing. So he said it's a mystery character, and he goes basically, you've got this kind of like group of villains, right? And it's very difficult to kind of like stand out. So his particular character is always dialed up to 11. It's like always maniacal, always like, always a crazy character, never ever kind of like, taken down to a lower level or whatever. And he goes, that's been quite difficult for him to portray, and to kind of keep that level of intensity to that.
Imagine that being exhausting.
Yeah,
emotional.
And obviously now, like, the rumor mills are going wild. Like, who is this guy? Who is he playing? It could be variety of people, man. People thinking, okay, is it Mad Hatter? Kind of fits, kind of thing, maybe. But even Mad Hatter is kind of like a bit scheming, and
who is more crazy than the Joker in terms of energy? I can't think of anyone really.
There isn't really anybody, because when you're kind of talking about all these other characters, they have kind of moments of chill, like, you think about Clayface, Calendar Man, Jervis Tech, Joker. Just keep going through different things and thinking, okay, who would he be playing? Who would be at a crazy level continuously, man? So yeah, the room mills have been going around about it, but I struggled, same as you, to actually think who would be in that you know, in that group, man. So I don't know. I don't know who would be, yeah, unless he's playing a brand new character. You never know. It might be, or it might be a different take on the same character.
Guys, if you know, write comments down below if you're watching this on YouTube. I'm curious if you can figure out who this is. I guess rumors are got to be out there. So
yeah. Well, the thing is, people have been putting like different characters, but even the things that I've been reading about, you know, these different characters, I kind of think, oh, well, no, that doesn't quite fit. Somebody said it might be Bloom, right? So Bloom is like this character who basically has like a flower instead of a face, right? And he's crazy, man. He's just like continuously nuts. But I'm thinking, in that film, are they going to put somebody like Bloom in it? No way, man. It's not going to fit.
Grounded.
So yeah, so you know, even all these characters are scheming, but you have to have somebody who's, if they turn up to 11 all the time, I don't know who the hell it could be, man. That Peter Skarsgård could play as well. So that is a tricky one. It's a tricky one. So let's go into David Ayer rumors again, man. So, well, not rumors, because David Ayer said it himself. So David Ayer has been doing this campaign ever since like Zack Snyder.
Yeah, it's started to die down a little bit, but that's more because other mass stuff been going on in the world. But he's not giving up. I like.
Yeah, he's not giving up. So basically, like somebody asked him, like, you know, have you made a cut? And he's like, yeah, my cut is out there. You need to speak to Warner Brothers and AT&T and then see whether they're actually wanting to do it. And he's talking about Katana. He said, like, you know, it's a way more storyline with Katana than there was there before.
My favorite character. I loved Katana. I was so bummed when I sat down and watched the movie. Besides the fact that it was terrible. Like, I really liked her. I thought the portrayal was good, the look, everything. I was like, just give me more of her. Just give me her own movie, something. But yeah, it was nothing. No reason why she was there. It was just pointless. She didn't really get to do nothing.
Yeah. When I think back about people who defend that film, right, defend Suicide Squad, like you could, I can go and give a reasoned argument for Man of Steel, even BVS. I can give a reasoned argument for Suicide Squad. Nah, it's just not possible for me to give any.
Suicide Squad, the one that broke you for the DCU, the one that finally was like, I can't there's nothing I can I can't spin this.
Yeah, I just honestly, like, when I went and I watched it, right? So basically, back in the day, I used to have a YouTube channel, and it wasn't the biggest, like 1,000 subscribers or something like that. But basically, I before Suicide Squad even came out, right, I went and I was looking and I was like, okay, people are bringing out non-spoiler reviews of Suicide Squad, right? So I was like, okay, do you know what? I'm gonna go and make a video that says that why Suicide Squad sucks, right? And basically, like, I picked 10 things and just said it, and I hadn't even watched the film, right? It was just kind of like, from the trailers, I was like, you know, this aspect, whatever, and just basically laid into this thing. And it was kind of like, it was the most viewed one that I ever had on that channel. It was like 40,000 views or something like that, right? But I made that the day before, and then my mate, who you've met as well, we basically went to go and see Suicide Squad, right? And he's like, yeah. He goes, did you go and see Suicide Squad yesterday? I was like, nah, mate, I haven't seen it, but I did make that video because I thought, okay, I'm just gonna get views and stuff like that. And he's like, I hope it's not an omen, right? And then we went in, and I was like, what the hell am I watching? The first time when I saw Jared Leto as Joker, I was like, oh my god, what is this? This is so
I was willing to give him a go, but it's hard to even critique him because we haven't seen most of what his performance was. So we're just seeing this chopped up version that's out of context. Like, that's why I want to see the Ayer's cut. Then I can shit on it and not feel bad about shitting on it. But at the moment, I just don't feel like we're not seeing the whole picture here. I'm seeing a small little window.
And the thing is, I made this whole thing about how they could have, because I made another video straight after that, like how they could have used that and linked it so that it would link into Wonder Woman, and it would link into other stuff, and you'd have those. I love those moments in films where you just get a what was that moment, or oh my god, this is absolutely crazy. If you need that in every single film that you kind of see, like a big blockbuster, you have to have something like that. So for Civil War, it was that, you know, it was that moment with you know, when Spider-Man turns up. You know, when you're watching Infinity War, and you know, once again, same thing, man, when it's like, you know, Peter Parker's dying and Iron Man's there, and it's like, damn, the villain won, man. It's like, you know, you get that kind of crazy moment in every single film.
Could have had it in Endgame if Feige could have just gotten over his hatred for the Netflix stuff and just put in Daredevil and Cage, like just put them in there, and they could have come through the portals with everybody else, and then it would have been just that extra bit of hype that it already was. Just to see
exactly.
Just to see Daredevil standing next to Spider-Man, that just would have been like orgasmic right there. I'm just,
people would have gone absolutely crazy. Well, in that that empowerment moment, if Jessica Jones is standing there with the other females and stuff like that, it would have gone crazy. You know, it would have just been a huge moment. But in Suicide Squad, the thing that I was saying was basically what they should have done, right, as this absolute what the hell was that moment, right, is that they go in. So, you know, they're going to go and get Amanda Waller, right? And there's this whole thing like, okay, you've got to go and get the asset. You got to go and get the asset, right? This asset needs protecting. And then they go, and Amanda Waller's there, and it's this whole anticlimax. She goes and kills everybody who's in the, you know, in the thing. And it's just like, okay, what, they went through all of this to save Amanda Waller? It's just, for me, it was a total anticlimax when they turned up and they saw her in there, right? Now, my version, right, which you're probably going to say, oh my god, why the hell would you ever want to do that, because that is so stupid, was the base. He's getting his popcorn out now. So basically, they would go in there, the Suicide Squad would go into this room. They'd find a guy there who's basically tied up to a chair, right, with a hood on, right? They'd take the hood off, right, and then take the thingy out of the guy's mouth, and it's Chris Pine, yeah. Right, and you're like, what the hell? That would be like the absolute what the hell moment, right? And because it would be like, how did he survive? Why is he the same age? Why is he here? None of that stuff would be answered. But the same thing that they did with Snoke in Force Awakens, which they then totally ruined when it came to Last Jedi, was that basically in between that time of Force Awakens and Last Jedi, you had people making blogs and videos and constant chatter about who is this guy, what is he doing, all this kind of stuff. They would have had the same thing if you basically had that reveal.
Like, it keeps it going. It keeps it in the consciousness of the fans. They would, because how many years ago now was Suicide Squad?
That was 2016, so it's 4 years ago.
Wow, dude, time, it's scary. Time is flying. Damn, but just imagine it's all that right until now. From not even now, we would maybe get an answer in 84 or some allusion to why he's still around. That would have been actually would have been pretty good, and it'd be nice little dialogue, him just bouncing off the guys with jokes.
Yeah, exactly. And then they would have saved him because they wouldn't have known who he was. But the audience would have been clued in like, wow, who is this dude? We know who he is. It's kind of like, you know, it just would have been, the whole thing would have been a little bit crazy, man. So it would have been interesting. But what basically, like, you know, the timeline wouldn't have fitted because obviously Wonder Woman was kind of released a bit later. But you know, it
still would have. I think it still would have worked because it still would have just been this what the fuck.
Everybody knew that he was Steve Trevor before the Wonder Woman film even came out. So it would have been like, okay, that makes no sense in terms of the timeline or whatever. It would have built up more hype even for the Wonder Woman film that came out. And then afterwards, you would see in Wonder Woman, you'd see the guy got killed. And then it'd be like, even more like what the hell happened there. You know, there'd be even more talk about it for extending the next one. So it's like they don't.
Little side question: would you have preferred Chris Pine as a Green Lantern rather than the love interest of Wonder
Woman? I don't.
You don't see it?
I think so.
I think he would have been great.
I can kind of see it. Yeah, but then I'd just be thinking, who else would they have as Steve Trevor, man? I don't know. It's the thing is though, when you see the interviews, when they had the interviews, I don't know, you've seen that famous interview with the cast and stuff, and it's like Pine and Godot are like sitting next to each other.
They're just flirting.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, you know, he was like ideal for that character. So
it's true.
yeah, because, you know, but basically, like, I think I think that could have been made so much better. But now, even though I think to myself, okay, I really want to see Justice League because it's got some of my favorite characters in it. You know, it's got Batman, obviously, right? And I want to see how that guy redeems himself, right? When I think about Suicide Squad, and I think, okay, do I really want to see that? Like a different version of that? If it was like the original one where, you know, it was okay, Enchantress is under control, Steppenwolf, and there's all the parademons there. I'm just thinking, right, how much money would it take for them to redo all the CGI on those people to look like parademons? It's got to be tens of millions.
That's what I would have thought. Yeah.
Right. To change it into that, right? To basically make it that they look like parademons, all the interactions, all the fight scenes changed, all that kind of stuff.
And to put Steppenwolf back in it as well.
Yeah. But Steppenwolf was the main bad guy, you know, the all that kind of stuff. Just, I don't know. It would be so costly, and it would be like, would it even be worth even doing that? I don't even see it, man. There's so many other things that I'd rather see them adapt and do than bother doing that. Even though some people love it, I don't know, man. So, yeah, I mean, he's holding out hope, but I'm not holding out much hope there for him anyway, man. So let's move back to, well, not really back to Marvel, but to Sony, right? So Sony have obviously they were talking about Into the Spider-Verse 2, right? And they're talking about how that, you know, they're talking about the characters and things that they're potentially going to expand into and stuff like that. And then they're talking about their content. So a lot of these companies have been changing their content based on the on coronavirus, right? And the fact that you can't get a whole load of actors in a room at the same time. So Sony is saying that they're going to increase their animated content, and they're going to have a lot more PG-13 and R-rated animated films that are coming out, and there's going to be a lot of adaptations that are going to come out, not only just Spider-Man stuff, but also they've got a lot of their other properties in the pipeline that they're going to change into R-rated and PG-13 movies, right? So obviously now the rumor mill's been going crazy. I'm kind of thinking like Sony, what you know, what properties they own right now that they could actually go and you know, adapt to kind of make it like that. But
have you looked through there with Wiki to see what things they own?
No, that's the thing. So I've only been concentrating on like the Marvel stuff and been thinking, okay, well they've got Spider-Man things, so I guess they might be thinking, right, okay, we can expand multiple different villains into there, multiple, you know, different characters, whatever.
They could. I'm presuming if they do more animated stuff, I think they're going to stick with what they established with Into the Spider-Verse. So I'm seeing like a Spider-Gwen solo movie. She's popular. Then maybe expand out of that into like Silk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know. What's going on with the whole Silver Sable and all that stuff? I don't know whether they're the Black Cat.
God knows, because I'm just trying to check right now. Actually, you know, the Sony Sony catalog to actually see what they're actually own right now.
Dude,
right?
I literally have just remembered that they've got that friggin' Jared Leto movie coming that I completely forgot about.
Oh, Morbius.
Morbius,
Yeah,
yeah.
Morbius,
I just
man.
completely forgot that was even
The
a thing.
greatest character in Spider-Man
Wow.
there's ever been, mate. Is without doubt the most greatest tragic character ever. It's, oh man, I love that character so much. It's just hilarious. I find him so funny because it's like yeah, do you ever see those cringe videos on YouTube? Like sometimes they have this like utter like cringe, right? And, and one of these ones that I watched yesterday was this guy. He's a Chinese son of a billionaire, right? He's like so loaded, right? And he's in love with this Russian model, right? So what he does is that he basically goes and he knows that she's going to be in this certain place at a time. So he brings his brand new Lamborghini Aventador. He's got champagne there. He's got all these. He's got like loads of people come around, like they're all in suits with his like caviar and canapes and all this kind of stuff. And,
what does he look like, quickly?
He's just like a skinny, short, skinny dude.
Okay, so that doesn't help.
Okay, so he comes in, he's got all this stuff, and basically he's like, he sends a message to her saying, look, can you come and meet me in this place? And I don't know where it is, right? So she comes in there, and she's obviously not prepared, to like meet him in that kind of way, because she's like in a raincoat and stuff like that, right? And he's like, look. He goes, I'd like you to marry me. Look, I brought you this Lamborghini. I brought you this champagne. He goes, I can buy you anything you want, whenever you want. Look at this. Like, I would basically, here's 2 tickets. We're gonna go on a plane now. We're gonna go to Maldives. We've got our own island that I've hired.
It on thick, man. Come on, you just met the girl. Let's go on a dinner or something.
So no, he knows her, right? He kind of knows her, but
okay.
she doesn't really, because he obviously goes in those circles.
Yeah,
dad is this billionaire, and
friend zone.
Yeah, and she's just like, nah, mate, like not at all. And it's like,
and this is all on film.
Yeah. All of it. Dude, it's so cringe. It's so absolutely cringe. Now I can't remember my train of thought why I actually brought that up. but yeah, basically
Morbius.
like, oh yeah, Morbius. Yeah. So that's why I love Morbius, because I love watching these cringy things, and I love the fact that he is so cringe, right? He's like, it's just like, mate, leave Felicia alone. Just leave her alone. You're a bloody vampire that like sucks people's blood and stuff like that, and it's just like all you're doing is like, he goes into her like window and stuff like that, and then Peter Parker's like, mate, just leave her alone.
Well, apparently teenage girls love that, because look at the Twilight stuff. That's what he was doing. This 100-year-old vampire is breaking into this 16-year-old girl's bedroom and just watching her sleep, and it's so romantic. I love it. Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean but that's the thing, that one of those guys looks like Arpats, one of those guys looks like Morbius. Right? So that's the thing. It seems to be an excuse, like basically, like, if you look in a certain way, then that behavior is excused, So that's why I love that character. But they're not going to make it that cringy Michael Morbius. It's going to be like, oh, I'm a super cool, I'm Jared Leto,
Pretty boy, then he gets angry and starts turning.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be that kind of level, man. Did Sony so was Sony Bloodshot, or was that
Yeah, I believe it was. Was it?
Sony was
Bloodshot, it
right?
was.
Okay, so
I think. So, I believe it was.
Let me just have a look. I'm just going to Google this 1 second. Bloodshot film.
It was a Sony quality movie, so
Columbia Pictures. Columbia Pictures, which is owned by
Sony.
Yeah. So that's interesting, because they could animate the whole of that, right? And that will probably be a better way to do it.
That would be better. That whole Valiant universe. That would be a nice way to soft reboot the whole thing and do it right.
And Vin Diesel could just then eat as many pies as he wants. he could just
because he'll still interfere. He'll still want it to be this certain way. And because did you even see the Chronicles of Riddick animated movie he did, and the game as well? There was a game as well he did.
No!
And once he gets control of a character, his fingers are in there, and he still has to be portrayed in this certain immortal way. No, get him out of it. Gone. No bin.
That's why you gotta love what Feige did to him, which is basically like you got 3 words, that you're gonna say continuously in these films.
It makes me mad. I could do that job. I don't know what his wage is, but it makes me mad that he gets paid this ridiculous amount of money to say 3 words, and he can't even recognize his voice.
Do you reckon he's got residuals? I reckon he's got residuals as well. Like he earns a cut of the profits and stuff like that as well, man. It's just like, was he Baby Groot's voice as well? Yep. And they just changed it up a bit. Oh my!
So he probably gets residuals from the toys as well if they're using the sounds. Recording like 3 words.
3 words. Yeah, exactly. It's a boys' club, man. It's a boys' club. We should have been on that flex, man. So that would be interesting if they do that, and they kind of bring that around to to do those kind of movies, man. I'd be quite interested in. Did you ever see the Godzilla Netflix stuff?
I gave them a go. I got deep into one, but I didn't really like them. It was some weird, like, humans in the future, and the world was like written off, and they were like.
Did you watch it in English or Japanese?
I tend to flick back and forth. I prefer to go Japanese. I'm a purist in that way.
Yeah. So the Japanese one, for some reason, it just seems better. Like when they're speaking in Japanese, and it's kind of like, we're about to die, we're gonna be killed. It's just like
the over dramatic lines and it seemed to the melodrama works in Japanese a lot better than it does in English.
Yeah, it just makes it like that thing where they're like, there's no hope. Just seems to be way better in Japanese, man. So I think that kind of style maybe they could bring to that kind of universe. Would be interesting, man. But another universe that is coming into this mainstream Marvel DC stuff, we're seeing the Marvel the universes of Predator and Alien. Now Marvel's got complete control of those. So those have been on loads of different things, man. They've been on like Dark Horse.
Yeah.
There's been some DC versions there of them there as well. And now obviously like Marvel's got control, so we're gonna see Marvel versions of Alien and Predator in print. Does that excite you at all?
It could be interesting. It depends what they want to do with it. Whether they keep it its own thing like they do with the Star Wars stuff, or whether they try and interweave it like the old Dark Horse. Was it Dark Horse where they had like RoboCop versus Terminator and like Aliens versus Terminator? They all do these mad crossovers. Whether they're going to try to do that with Marvel characters, I don't know. I would prefer it to be its own thing because I think Alien, there's a lot there that they could really get into with the mythos of it all. Even though the movies have kind of cracked the bed with it all, they could. What I would love them to do is to go back and try and redo some of the scripts that they never got to. Like their Joss Whedon script for Alien 3 that was supposed to be completely different than the garbage that we got. Like redo. Cause I think they did that with the Star Wars. They did a version of that original script that never got made, where the characters look completely different and it took a whole different. It was Star Killer instead of Luke Skywalker and all that. Yeah, and it went back to the original designs and everything. So I'd love to do something like that. That'd be cool. But that's just me. That's the nerd.
There's a lot of the thing is, I don't know what happened to Ridley Scott. He just got obsessed with AI, right? Because his entire thing was like Prometheus. Every single other thing that follows is going to be an AI version. Everything's about AI, right? And
he lost it. He got away from the actual horror of the aliens and got all about tech. And he's lost his ability to tell a compelling story. Like his movies still look amazing, but the storytelling is just so much weaker.
It's difficult because you basically got the first one, which is like horror, basically, right? Like a claustrophobic kind of horror, right? And then you got the second one, which is very, very action based. and then like, where do you go after that? Then you kind of got to think, okay, the next one's got to be more of a story-based arc, that they're kind of like a, you know, like a mystery or something like that.
That's
to
kind of what it
differentiate from the
was,
others.
because in I have to dig into my memory, guys. It's gonna be difficult. But what I remember of the original script for Alias 3 is that Ridley ended up on this, instead of it being on a planet, a prison planet, it was like this floating weird artificial sort of planet that was full of prisoners. It was like this floating jail, but it was a lot more compelling and a lot more. It was kind of more to like the original Alien, where it was more of a mystery and horror, slow burn, but you had a lot more characters, these sort of criminals that were trying to redeem themselves, and you know, it seemed more intriguing from what I remember. It was years ago since I read it, but I've got to read more of these scripts. I've got a ton of these old scripts. I've got hold of the old I've gotten hold of the Grayskull script for the for the He-Man, the one that was supposed to just be this epic Lord of the Rings story.
Yeah,
I managed to find it, and I want to read that because it's supposed to be this potential classic that's never going to get made. But
that thing's been in you know, production hell for God knows how long. Man.
I was watching this documentary about it. In fact, they just keep rewriting the script. Directors drop out, and when that happens, they just hire new writers and completely scrap everything they've done. Hard work that people say was amazing, this amazing script, I can't wait to make this, and then they just rewrite it. Like, why do they do that?
I think it's like all these things, they want to put their own stamp on it, right? They don't want somebody else to take the credit. So they're like, we got to rewrite it and say, like, I'm the one who made this script the way that it is, you know?
Such a waste.
So yeah, it's a total waste when you've already got a script there that you could be using, you know what I mean? But I mean, obviously they've got the Predator stuff there as well, with Marvel there. I mean, kind of like when I was at uni, me and one of my mates, we used to write like loads of these stupid things that I've told you about them before. So, but we did do one for this there as well, and the one for this is basically like, it wasn't just the engineers, right? So there was basically like loads of planets in a galaxy, right? And all these planets they're basically having a war against each other, and they were having basically their war was like a biological war. So they were all trying to engineer the next big weapon, right? And one of them ended up engineering the aliens, right? And they used the aliens against one of these other planets and kind of like overwhelm that planet. But then the aliens started becoming intelligent, and they had to go there and try and destroy the aliens. They ended up getting destroyed themselves, and that was kind of like the backstory there of it, rather than just being the one group of people that kind of created it there, basically. Because I mean, the thing is, like, I think Prometheus, like, you know, you're saying like Suicide Squad is like the straw that, you know, broke the camel's back. Prometheus is the same thing, man. It's like, you know when you see these two guys and they're like, this thing's opening and they're like, what's that?
Oh God.
And it's like
the dumbest thing. But even, to be honest, even that is in the very original. They do the same thing. You have no concept that aliens exist. You find this gooey organic egg that just slowly opens up, and your first instinct is to stick your face right in it. Like, why?
That's true, man. But then I kind of excuse those guys because they were like on a freighter. They're like people on a freighter, and these guys are legit scientists, man.
Yeah,
these legit scientists should know that you don't go and do something like that. And you know, especially when there's a snake thing like dancing around, like, oh, what's that?
And they're touching things. They're touching everything. It's like, stay. Oh God.
Exactly,
send the robot in.
Exactly. That's exactly what a scientist would do. Go in, get the sample, chip back. You know what I mean? But it's just the whole weird one, man. So, do you reckon that they're ever gonna think at some point, okay, let's bring some element of this or some Easter egg of this into a Marvel universe? For example, like a space-based character such as Captain Marvel or something like that.
I think they might have to do that with Predator, because I don't think there's as much lore there in terms of, you know, with the world building enough to carry its own ongoing comic books. I think it's mainly a character that's going to pop up in other people's stuff. So I could see them doing it with Predator, definitely.
Even if they just like mentioning like, oh, you know, like the Nova Corps, and they're like, yeah, we're having to deal with something, and they mention it, then people will be like, oh, wait a second, this is an interesting thing here.
I can see the cover now, like Captain Marvel versus Predator, or some crap like that. I can see it, and then it's like intertangled, punching at each other. I can see it, like it's gonna happen at some point.
I hate to say it, but Captain Marvel would muller Predator.
No, it wouldn't.
Just pick him up and throw him into space, man. It's finished, you know? Absolutely finished. Mate.
Probably more Guardians of the Galaxy, but then it's become such a comedic thing now. I don't even know if that would work, because you want Predator to really be more of a sinister, scary like thing. Yeah. But if it's in Guardians, it's gonna be a bit of a comedic joke.
Yeah. Like the Nova Corps or something, maybe dealing with it. Maybe they're kind of like having something to deal with in one of their planets that they're kind of regulating or something like that. So, guys, this is the part of the show where we're nearing the end, but at some point, me and Eds have to meet in the middle, right? And this is basically where we start talking about Star Wars, man, a neutral topic. Which is which we can't show our internal biases on, man. And there have been some hilarious Star Wars rumors, man. I don't know. Have you been keeping on top of this Star Wars?
New ones, not from this week. No, whoa. Well, new stuff.
Okay. So this is the thing, man. Basically, there's been the usual suspects who make loads of, you know, YouTube videos about these kind of things, but I've read it on comicbook.com as well and stuff. So one of them is that Star Wars are basically they're planning to try and remove the sequels as part of Star Wars canon. Like Disney, apparently Disney are trying to do this, right? And find a way to make it as a separate entity away. So according to the guy who was talking about it, they're trying to produce some form of way of trying to say that there's parallel universes and stuff like that in Star Wars, and this whole sequel stuff existed in a parallel universe away from the original canon of Star Wars, right? And in a new film that they're going to have, this is going to be the main crux of it, that there are multiple kind of universes that
exist. So overused, man, because we're going to see multiverses in Marvel. We've already got illusions of it over in Warner Brothers with the DC stuff, and now Star Wars is going to try and do it. It's becoming this get out of jail free card thing now. Of just, if you don't like how things are going, then no, don't worry, there's another universe we can go to where things are the way you liked it being. Like, maybe they could pull it off. Maybe they must really be panicking for them to want to do this. They must really be seeing like sales of toys and merchandise of the old Star Wars stuff might suddenly start be tanking now. That's why they're seeing, is the new stuff really affecting the old stuff now? Is it? Luckily, it is for me, if I'm honest. It really has damaged I still love Star Wars, but the latest sequel did damage my overall love of the whole thing. It tarnished it. You know, it's like when someone farts in the elevator, it just makes everything stink. But I like The Mandalorian, even though I don't like the episodic thing, I still enjoy the whole thing. But then if they do that, then where's the story going to go? Are they going to go back and try and redo the Skywalker stuff in a different way, or because they need to do a new thing?
They're kind of just like this. The saga ends like Darth Vader died, and the Emperor died, and that was it. That's the end of it. He was the chosen one. That's the end of the saga. Done, done and dusted kind of thing. And the other stuff exists in a completely separate universe. Now, I think you're right, because now is the best time for them to check how much money we're making off this stuff, how much money we're making off merchandise, etc. Everybody's home. How many people are buying Rise of Skywalker on Blu-ray? How many sales are we getting from digital stuff, because everybody's at home. They're not stuck with being distracted by other films that are being released right now. There's a captive audience, and there's something that that they can watch there. you know, how much stuff they're ordering online from Amazon and all these other kind of things, these collector things, stuff like that. And they're probably looking at it thinking, bloody hell, there's not much being ordered here.
That's it. And like, it's all on Disney Plus. How many people, what's the analytics on that? How many people are watching the old stuff? Like, yeah, I don't know. It's to be real interesting. But they really got to do something fresh. That's why I was hoping Old Republic, and that would just be like, screw everything else. Old Republic, go back 1,000 years and just, that would have been good, but it don't look like they're doing that. So
I don't know why they're stuck in this one field, right? So they're stuck in this one thing. I don't know if you ever heard the Darth Bane audiobooks, right? But basically, like, you know, in those kind of like Old Republic days, it was like they had armies. They had like full armies of Jedi and Sith, right? And it's like, you know, they kind of tried to do that in Attack of the Clones, but in a really crappy way, basically, right? But you know, can you imagine like the kind of crazy battles that you'd be getting, like, you know, with an army of Jedi versus an army of Sith, or like an army of Sith leading a whole load of clone troopers into battle against something else? It would be something new that people haven't seen, and it would just be absolutely crazy to see on the screen.
And I think I mentioned this before, but yeah, I also want to know about the other force sensitive, you know, beings and cultures and cults and other things which aren't just Jedi and Sith. Like, I want to know and more of the Mandalorian culture, not just an individual Mandalorian, but like a whole, when there was still a whole planet of them, like all of that stuff that they touched on with the Clone Wars animated show, which was a great show.
Yeah,
but I want to see it in live action, man. It ain't the same. Give me that.
And I kind of I always like this thing where it's like, basically, like, you know, like you're saying, like, what would the average person be doing in this kind of situation? Now, I kind of think to myself, okay, if the Force is going on, right, you're not just going to have a whole load of Jedi that can use the Force and then a whole, you know, a couple of Sith or a whole load of Sith that can use it. There's going to be these mad scientists like saying, like, can we capture this into this? Can we use it? How do we like, you know, manipulate this power and stuff like that?
There are other things, like there's witches that are force sensitive. They're canon in the whole, because they're in the Clone Wars. So there's these other different versions of it that are away from just the whole normal, you know, Sith and Jedi. Like other people, how do they deal with it? People who have no force sensitivity, how do they deal with, like, that's what I want to know. It's more interesting. Give me a better sense of the universe of what Star Wars occupies. That's just untapped.
They could literally make like a dude like the Joker, who's basically like, you know, like the Joker film, where it's like he's got no force sensitive powers. He's not well educated or anything like that. He's basically a loser in this universe, because he's not gonna, you know, and then it's like how he can like break loose.
Like, what was did you ever used to watch Heroes back in the day?
Yeah.
What was the bad guy called? Was he Cyrus?
Sylar,
yeah, something like. Remember, he used to just take from other people's their abilities and their. Maybe there was a guy who surgically found a way to acquire this from other people, just giving it to himself, just keep on just going mad, just acquire all the stuff. That would have been so cool, man. Wow.
That would be crazy, man. That would be absolutely crazy. Yeah, because he was like doing stuff like, he went to the watchmaker and was like, open up his brain. Oh, mate, that would be so crazy. So that idea has been patented by right? just in case they decide to go down that R-rated route ever, man. So which is highly unlikely, but you know, you never know, man. So guys, I wanted to just to say before we end the show, thanks to everybody who's been sharing and commenting on our Facebook pages, because we've had quite a few shares there of the Watchmen stuff, and of the Dean Cain stuff just went crazy today, man. Which we didn't really mention in this show because I don't want to be going crazy on politics, but Dean Cain, the worst representation of Superman in real life.
Come on. I think that guy now is the worst, in my opinion. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying, is like, you know, he is like he can't claim to be anything like Superman the way he's behaving right now. But yeah, thanks to everybody who's been sharing that stuff there as well. Guys, I know you guys have been messaging saying that you want me to start producing more of the trench episodes, because I kind of stopped and started doing views from the cave, but people don't like that. They want the trench episodes again, so I will start doing audio only trench stuff based on, you know, my random ass thoughts and things like that, man. So guys, if you wanna message us, you can go to the Facebook page, which is DC versus Marvel Podcast. Also go to the Instagram page, which is DC vs Marvel Podcast, which is run by Eds. You can email us on dcvsmarvelpod@gmail.com, and you can also go to the YouTube page, which is the Voltron Network. I think is it the Voltron Network or Voltron Network?
Voltron Network, 2 separate words. Rather.
Voltron Network. Look for the V, and that is us basically. And not only can you see the DC versus Marvel podcast stuff on there, but you can see the other stuff that Eds is in, that Eds will tell you about now.
Well, we got talking about the movies podcast, which is all movie, TV, just general, and then also the bonus stuff where we're comparing the original movies and the remakes, and then we've also got a wrestling ruckus. If you're a wrestling fan, go check that out too. So those are there, all in one place, easy to access.
yeah, guys. So if you want, you can go and check those things out there as well. We'll see you again in about a week's time.
There you go.